Should you be embracing or avoiding ABM? Account-based marketing, or ABM, is a hot topic right now, and it's increasingly being seen as a strategy which everyone needs to adopt in order to keep up with the proverbial Joneses. But even more controversial than Harry Styles in a dress, and hopefully with more substance, is the notion that ABM is not for everyone. And even more shocking is the claim is that given the size and scale of businesses in the UK, ABM is actually only suited to a select number and certainly not the majority. All is not lost though, because whilst the most important thing to ascertain is whether or not ABM is right for you and your company, you can still adopt certain ABM best practices. So in this week's show, we'll be looking into the 3 pillars of ABM, why most projects fail, and how you can avoid that. Plus, giving you everything you need to be able to determine if you should be going after a 5-course ABM commitment or more of a light afternoon buffet, as they say. So either way, you'll get the answers you'll need to be in a much better position moving forward. And this all on today's 414 Live. Hello, good afternoon. My name's James Rostance, and this is the 414 live and exclusive this Thursday afternoon here to LinkedIn. So the 414 is for you if you're a professional B2B marketer, whether you work in-house at an agency or in a company, or indeed if you're a professional B2B marketer and company executive with a hands-on role in your company's sales and marketing endeavors. And each and every week, I speak with some of the greatest and most interesting minds in B2B marketing so that you can directly expand and enhance your professional knowledge with every single episode, every single week. So this week, we are delving into the world of ABM once more and working out whether it is right for you and your company. Because as I said, my guest today has got an excellent point of view that ABM is not actually for everyone. So what I would like for you to get today is to find out, is it right for your company? And if it is, how you can implement it all successfully. But even if it's not completely right for you to be able to take away the key components of it so that you can still level up your game, because that's what it's all about ultimately. So then, please welcome, joining me live from Kings Langley in Hertfordshire, Mr. Riaz Kanani. Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon, James, and good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for having me on, James.
Absolute pleasure. And yes, Riaz Kanani is with me today, not Riaz Kanini, as I said in the promo. Thank you for stepping in his place. Heaven forbid I should mispronounce
my alter ego.
Is that right? When you corrected me just before I came on the air, then I took a bit of solace in knowing that in early years, there's a famous clip on the interweb net of Nigella Lawson pronouncing a microwave as a microwave.
Yes. That definitely caused a chuckle, didn't it?
You know what? I actually only saw that a few weeks ago, but I thought, oh, that's pretty special. So microwave did not catch on, but the information superhighway, I would like to think, is still a thing. Anyway, in terms of
do you remember those days?
Yes, and the cyber web. That's the other thing the internet's known as, or still is.
Yeah.
Right.
Hey, email stuck though. Email stuck.
Yes, it did. Yes, that never had an alternative name. Anyway, right, I suppose we should...
Well, electronic mail, but anyway.
Yes, we should get right into talking about some intelligent B2B marketing type stuff, because that's really the promise of the show.
Absolutely.
Every week. So let me please then start by asking you, could you start by tightly defining how you like to define what ABM is, who it's for, and what it's designed to achieve?
Yeah, of course. So... I mean, ABM, account-based marketing, is a B2B, business-to-business marketing strategy. It's focused on getting sales and marketing to work together to basically close and win more accounts. That's what it's all about, and specific accounts rather than any account. So you pick the account that you want to win, one, a couple, many, and then you go after them and close it. And it's that trick of sales and marketing coming together that really helps the strategy succeed.
Now, that in itself sounds awesome, and it does make sense. But without giving the game away yet, because obviously this is your take, I can see potentially at this point, without quite accurate description, or good description rather, how that could be misinterpreted. That yes, everyone should be doing that. But I suppose to provide a bit more clarity on that, could you then elaborate on how ABM comes in different forms? So could you take us through that then?
Yeah, absolutely. So ABM itself has been around for decades. I mean, you can argue it's an evolution of key account marketing, which has been around since the 70s. But most companies have not adopted, until the last couple of years or so, account-based marketing, despite it being around for so long. And the reason for that is what I call traditional account-based marketing was all about a single account. And if you had large potential contract values, then you would pull together a team of people, and they would figure out what was the marketing plan, what was the messaging, how are we going to close this super large account. And of course, for most companies around the world, that is not the day-to-day. And so as a result, ABM was quite niche. Now, what's happened in the last 2 to 4 years is that technology has allowed us to bring better insight in a more automated way. It's allowed us to scale messaging. It's allowed us to scale the techniques of account-based marketing to beyond those individual targeted accounts. And so you get 2 more strategies. Basically, traditional ABM gets called one-to-one ABM, and then you've got one-to-few, which you could argue is cluster or industry-based, but actually it doesn't need to be around an industry. It can be around a particular need or a particular problem that a group of companies is facing. Or you've got one-to-many, where you are going after a larger quantity of accounts, still a specific list of accounts, and trying to persuade those companies to move up into the pipeline.
When you said that just then, key account marketing, I have not heard that in a long time, and
no,
that's actually quite cool. Because a lot of things do get reinvented, don't they? Just given a new name. And so ABM is actually just key account marketing. Or is that fair for me to say?
Some would argue. I mean, it's an evolution of it. It's an evolution of it.
Without going over what you've just covered, are there any other differences then between what might have traditionally been key account marketing versus what ABM is now?
It's this scale. It's this scale part of the puzzle, right? So suddenly, if you're able to take some of those traditional techniques that you would typically put together for a single account and apply it to a few accounts or many accounts, now you're able to bring down the acquisition cost, if you like, on a per account basis to the level where much more companies are able to take advantage of ABM. And that's the big change, right? Is no longer is this a niche activity for a small number of companies around the globe. Suddenly it becomes something that a company selling average sized contract values to enterprise still are able to adopt and take advantage of.
Perfect. Well, in that case, I guess that leads us on beautifully to your main point, which is what is your position on ABM? Who is it right for? And crucially, here's the big one: who is it not right for?
Yeah, so I mean, I came at this several years ago from the perspective that the buying experience is flawed. Really, it's not pleasant, right? If you're a B2B marketer today, you're writing tons of content. You were doing lots of micro events, lots of messaging and retargeting, and it became very very repetitive. Acquisition costs would rise typically year on year to stay treading water. And if you're the buyer, you suddenly share your contact details with a company. You're now being bombarded with emails and messaging, and it, you're getting that from everybody. And so unsurprisingly, what we saw was a delay in buyers starting to share their details. They're looking to see who actually understands me, looking to understand which is the right company to talk to. And all of these sort of environmental changes are causing a push towards account-based marketing. And that's really what's causing that rise, if you like.
I'm with you. Okay. Oh, by the way, I should say to the viewers right now, if there's something you would like to put to Riaz, whether you think this is complete heresy, is that the right way to say it? Heresy or heresy, isn't it? It was when something's completely
Heresy,
at odds with what you believe. If indeed you do want to express that, then please do put it in the comment section right now. Or if you have something that you'd like Riaz to provide further clarity on, or a direct question, put it in the comments and I will put that to him right now and he will answer your question live. The doctor is in surgery. All right.
So James, just the one thing around who it's not meant for, therefore, is that the nature of ABM means that you are going after higher value contracts, right? If you're selling to SMBs and you don't have a sales team, then quite clearly, even though you're selling to businesses, it's not a B2B strategy that you should be adopting. But even when you get to the next stage along, whereby you've still got a sales team, but your contract values are quite low, actually putting the additional investment into ABM can mean that you end up spending more money on an account than you should be able to, for that level of contract, if that makes sense. And so therefore, you've got to have the size of contract that warrants that additional attention that you're going to be giving to the accounts.
Do you have any guidance on what that cutoff point should be then in that case?
So this is where the grey comes in, right? So what is an ABM strategy? Is it you sitting down with a list of companies and doing the research across those companies and putting together a plan for all those companies? Now, if you did that for half a dozen companies, let's say, and you've got a low contract value, quite clearly the cost and effort of doing that is going to outweigh the return, to give an extreme, and that's what you've got to sit down and work out. But you can do very small, very focused ABM programs, which aren't covering all the channels, which aren't doing deep analysis on every account. You can, and we talk a lot about this idea of prioritization through the ABM strategies. So you put a large number of companies into the one-to-many bucket, if you like, and you do a small amount of research for those. That allows you to get enough insight to tailor the messaging to that group. But then based on engagement and interaction, you then promote them up to a one-to-few or a one-to-one, depending on the average contract value or strategic value. In fact, it doesn't necessarily need to be about money. And so it's understanding, well, if I allocate this much resource to this tactic for these accounts, what's the average cost per account? And then you can start to say, well, actually, it's in my interests to do this, because it's not just about money, right? Strategically, you may want to invest in winning certain accounts because it's going to open up a new market for you, for example.
Okay, I'm just wondering here, what would be? I'm taking into account that people watching will be working at various different sizes of companies.
Yes.
What sort of input would you likely want to get involved from the finance team? I'm thinking here in terms of, people in charge of finance would know more accurately the lifetime value of a customer, and therefore they might be able to give a certain perspective on, actually, maybe you should be upping the amount of spend to get that customer in the long term because they know that the LTV, right?
Yes, absolutely. I mean, one of the nice things about ABM is it does give you much better insight in terms of how much you've invested in an account to win it. You often are able to say, right, okay, well, all of these things that we did touch this, and the cost per account was X. And so it's not precise, because obviously you're still doing market wide campaigns and those sorts of things alongside it. But you do get a much better indicative investment cost. And yes, absolutely, understanding the cost of acquisition or the lifetime value of a customer is something you can get from finance and understand.
I had a feeling that might be the case because a running theme, certainly with all the guests I have on the show, is the more tightly integrated the various departments are, the better the results. And this seems an obvious one.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's kind of my, it's the first pillar of ABM really, is that tight integration across the business. You do it naturally. I mean, if you guy or girl who is going after their, the accounts that they've got in the pipe, they've come in, if you like, they're showing some sort of buying signals. That's their day to day. But normally they've also got this list of companies in the back of their mind that they'd really love to win, right? And it's often those companies that form part of your ABM program. And so what's really interesting is actually when marketing, a lot of marketers, when you ask them how good their relationship is with sales, it's not stellar reading usually. But when you do engage on those A-list accounts and you do engage with them around that, it's often a good way to start building that relationship. And it's critical. If you create an ABM program in a silo, whether that's actually in sales or in marketing, you end up wasting an awful lot of money. Forget about the lack of results because you don't close fast or increase the average contract value type stuff, which you get from an ABM program. You need that joint working together.
Understood. Now, you mentioned just then about the various pillars of ABM. As I understand it, you're a big believer in the 3 pillars of ABM. Is this your concept or something that you refined from elsewhere?
Yeah, I guess so. We look at it as being one of the key things when you are working with ABM that you have to get right to succeed. Put it that way. There's someone once said to me that ABM is B2B marketing, which on paper is absolutely true, right? You're putting a company at the center. You're trying to understand what their need is. You're figuring out who the people are. You're going to where they are. All of those things are things that you would do in an ABM program. Albeit, in reality, you often, for a small cluster, you're going to do one-to-one, but the majority you're not. And so you can't deliver the theory on that perfectly, but you can directionally move towards it. And so, those 3 pillars, sales and marketing I just talked about, if you don't have those conversations and those open doors between the 2 groups, then invariably your ABM program starts to spend money on accounts that sales have just dismissed. Or in a black and white way, but actually it's the grey that's the problem, right? So sales have dismissed them because they're not in market for 3 months, or they're not in market for 6 months or 12 months, and your decision points as to what you do next in marketing for that particular account is going to be very different based on that situation. It might be sales has figured out actually their core problem is not what we had thought, and it's something different, and so you need to shift them to a different program that is better tailored to what we now understand. So sales and marketing is the first one. It really doesn't work without it. The second big thing, and we used to see this a lot, especially early on, where when you talk about account-based marketing, you often talk about this need for insight, this need for understanding of the company. And so you're gung-ho initially, right? You've got this new strategy. It's going to deliver better ROI. It's going to close deals faster. It's sounds like a golden bullet, right? But what often gets missed is you don't need to research and find everything there is to know about a company at day one, right? And in fact, if you do that, and then you start your programs, and then sales eventually is picking up the phone to them, and you find out they're not in market for a period of time, then by the time they are in market, well, their needs may have changed, the people may have changed. Suddenly, all the research that you've done, well, it's useful, is now out of date, and you're having to repeat it. And obviously, that's wasted investment. And so you want to invest just enough understanding and have the tools in place to identify companies when they are coming in market, so that you're able to pull the triggers, if you like, on more and more insight at the right moments in time.
Understood. Okay, so just for anyone joining us right now, we're actually in the middle of going through your 3 key pillars of ABM, and the first one right there is marketing, which you've just covered. Does that cover all of the element of the first pillar, or is there indeed more to that?
So that's the first and the second pillar. So the sales and marketing alignment is the first one, and data is the second one, and you could call it data stroke research, if you like. And the level of focus that you put on that second pillar at the right time is the key thing, if you like.
Right. Okay. And then third, then in that case.
And so the third thing in that case then is around channel strategy. And understanding, well, where does the investment need to go? Because of course, often what used to happen with inbound marketing is it's all about getting that MQL, that marketing qualified lead, and then sadly, it was often you'd throw it over the fence at sales, and then it's sales have to deal with it type thing. And of course, that's not happening here. Yeah. You're figuring out, yes, which company is in market. Actually, you're going a step before that. You're figuring out which companies are best suited to you, right? So what is your strategy as a business? What's your ideal customer profile? What are the companies that actually, as a business, we best solve and best help? And so you have that list. You understand the stakeholders that are inside those companies. And then you go down the route of, well, okay, I need to bring these companies both into my bubble, if you like, and also understand which companies are coming into the market and are already in the market. And so, you end up with programs that address each part of that process right the way through the funnel. So we have clients who do, using our company targeted advertising piece of the puzzle. You're able to say, right, this company has now entered the pipeline. Let's place a different type of advertising in front of that company, because now we want to make sure that they feel safe with us. They've got confidence in what we're able to deliver. And obviously that creates a nudge effect that moves that company through the pipeline, because they're being reminded by advertising. So it's not as abrupt as email, and it's not as in your face as a phone call. But it's just a gentle effect. And that channel strategy then of, advertising, email, et cetera, right? You can list them all because ABM uses all the same channels that you would use across the whole of B2B marketing, really. It's just working at an account level rather than at a big bucket of invisible companies, if that makes sense.
I believe it does, yes. I liked your reference there to, as it would have previously been done, which is marketing has done their thing and then, hand it absolutely the whole thing over to sales, because they're an entirely separate department, nothing to do with marketing. For clarity, that's how it used to be. Right, sure.
Yes. Yeah, I remember, it's probably 10 years ago, let's say, maybe 15 years ago, when the first marketing automation platforms came online, what we talked about back then was the idea of an MQL and SQL and how you would structure this. And there was never a gap between an SQL, a sales qualified lead, and a marketing qualified lead. And theory is a wonderful thing. In reality, what's happened is acquisition costs have been rising, and they continue to rise because mostly of the requirement to invest in better reach and more content. And most, companies can't keep increasing their marketing spend year on year, often to keep up with that increasing acquisition cost. And so marketing is under pressure to deliver the same quality of leads, and more of them usually, for less money. And again, this is why ABM is starting to be adopted more and more every year that goes by.
Perfectly put. All right. Well, For the sake of a good condensed version of this, could you just quickly then recap all three pillars in a 60-second chunk? So, Riz Kanani, the three pillars
in a 60-second chunk.
Riz Kanani, the three pillars of ABM, please.
Yeah, so number one, sales and marketing alignment. You've got to communicate between the two teams. You've got to have them all agreed as to which companies to go after and when, and have that feedback loop there. The second one is data stroke research and knowing when to invest time and money in getting those insights around those companies that you're targeting. Putting all the investment up front is not the right approach. And then finally, the last one is channel strategy and understanding which channels you want to use and invest in at each point in the pipeline, whether that's right at the very beginning when they're not even inside your bubble through something like advertising or intent, right the way through to actually post-close even, where you've got customers and you want to keep them informed and obviously bring them in to use other products or other geographies.
Perfectly articulated. Thank you so much. Right. In that case, what changes or evolution do you see happening with the way that businesses now approach ABM?
Yeah, that's probably been the most interesting fallout from this. So when we started this, we focused on the buyer's experience and making that a more personalized and better. But what's really interesting is the change that occurs on the marketing side, whereby suddenly they're not thinking. I remember one conversation where the pressure to just send out a big email campaign to your entire list, right? To just figure out who might possibly respond, and that should never be an MQL, but often could be, and that thinking goes out the window because suddenly these companies are not invisible to you. There isn't this big bucket that's infinite of companies that you would sell to. Suddenly I'm talking about a list of companies. I mean, it could be some of our clients, well, not some, but very few of our clients target one company in a country, for example. But plenty are going after tens of thousands of companies. That's their total addressable market. Suddenly that's, that, right, if I send this company more emails, then I'm likely to burn them. So I don't want to be sending them that email. So suddenly this idea of a random email out is something that doesn't happen. And so the quality of communication starts to improve, and you start to measure and look at and understand your market in a much better way than you did before. And for us, that's where ABM is going, is this end-to-end knowledge and insight of what's going on in your world, if you like, because every company has a slightly different nuance. The days of being able to create companies that pandered to everybody, and of course some had great service, some didn't have great service. If you don't have great service today, your business can't exist. It's going to be out there in the public very, very quickly. So you've got to have great service. You've got to have a nice product that's easy to use. So suddenly if the leading products are all looking like they deliver on those two things, you have to have some nuance to who you are as a business that allows you to connect and really feel like you're the right fit for a target market.
With you. Well, thank you. In that case, as a whole, I guess as a summarization, what would you like viewers and listeners to take away from this and moving forward for how to make their activities more effective?
Yeah, the number one thing, and actually I think this always falls out when you have an ABM strategy, is putting the account at the center, or the group of accounts at the center. It's a requirement inside ABM because obviously you can't build anything around without having that in the first place. So even if you're not using ABM, that is something that really will help your communication with whoever you're talking to. So that's probably the first thing. The second thing, obviously, talk to sales, build relationships with sales, understand what the needs are there, and understand how much, I guess the last thing then is understanding how much investment to put in at each point in time. You know, you don't need to go all out and try and implement everything in one go to deliver a successful ABM program.
Perfect. All right. Well, hey, thank you so much for joining me this afternoon. This has been good.
Thank you.
And yes, and we've revealed that key account marketing is the thing that's evolved into ABM. That's going to be the main thing I'll take away from today. Is like, we found that out.
Yeah. Yeah.
Nice. So
there's plenty of books on key account marketing as well, but yeah, slightly different era.
I imagine so. Perfect stuff. Well, hey, Mr. Riaz Kanani, live from Kings Langley in Hertfordshire. There we go. Nice out in the country. Thank you so much for joining me this afternoon.
Thank you. Good to be.
And if you've enjoyed watching, then please do subscribe to the show if you haven't already. Our web address on screen, the414.net for all subscription options and for previous episodes. There's quite a library building up on there right now. So the 414 for you, if you'd like to expand and enhance your professional knowledge each and every week when I speak with some of the greatest and most interesting minds in B2B marketing. My name's James Rostance. I'll see you here same time next week.